with the Oshkosh area Emerging Leaders. The Emerging Leaders program provides early to mid-career professionals an opportunity to further develop leadership skills, network with like-minded individuals, and elevate their commitment to making a difference in the community. Emerging Leaders is a great way to get involved in United Way programs and to see the impact that the United Way has in the community. You can find out more about the Emerging Leaders program at oshkoshunitedway.org/emerging. You can also just go to the Oshkosh United Way site, and it's under the Get Involved section. One of these opportunities is coming up next week at the Oshkosh Area Pantry, Monday, August 29th from 5 to 7 p.m. If you want to RSVP for that, email OAUW@oshkoshunitedway.org or calling 920-235-8560, and we'll try and get those in the chat for you. So thanks for joining our summer TELTalk. Our speaker again is Kevin Ralofsky, President and CEO of Verve Credit Union. He brings more than 20 years of experience in business, financial, and executive management. He's been a leader in the areas of culture and change management, mergers and acquisitions, team member engagement, strategy and branding, and servant leadership. Kevin came to Verve from a diverse background that includes corporate banking, syndicated finance, and management consulting in both the financial and medical services industries. Additionally, he was the majority stakeholder and CEO of a medical startup providing urgent care, wellness, and diagnostic imaging services, which was sold to Merida Hospital, a part of Cleveland Clinic Hospital Foundation. Kevin currently serves on the board of directors for the Wisconsin Credit Union League, Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Cooperation, the Boys and Girls Club of Oshkosh, Business Lending Group, and Ascension Healthcare. He lives in Oshkosh with his wife Nancy and their 3 children, Noah, Kyle, and Celia. The Ralofskys are avid downhill skiers, are active in their church, children's school, and various nonprofit organizations. So we're thrilled to offer this TELTalk, but before I hand it over, a few housekeeping things to mention. Please turn off or mute your microphone if you haven't already done so. During the presentation, if you have any questions, use the Q&A feature and we'll make every effort to get to all of the submitted questions. Save the date for our next TELTalk, which is scheduled for January 11th with Tricia Rathermel, President and CEO at Greater Oshkosh Economic Development Corporation, or GO EDC. And last one here is be sure to follow Oshkosh United Way on social media, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon, and I'll turn this over to Kevin.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. And Al, thank you for the warm welcome. I'm really thrilled to spend some time with the emerging leaders and all of the guests today that are on this afternoon. You know, I really love the concept and application of this program, and the work you do is really, really vital. And I'm really energized by the fact that you're here learning and growing and finding new ways to give back to the community. It really sits well with us here at Verve. And you've learned to embrace challenges. You see them for the opportunities they are, and that's really impressive. Opportunities to connect with others, opportunities to strengthen the communities, the schools and neighborhoods that we are in, all to generate abundance in order to fulfill all the needs of others. And that's really what leadership is about. So I really applaud you, and it's very exciting work. And really all this is to say that thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. And I really am humbled to be here. And as Al shared before, I am married. Been married to my wonderful wife for 25 years, Nancy. And like you said, I have 3 kids, Noah, Kyle, and Celia. They're 20, 18, and 13. And I've been here at Verve for about 10 years, a transplant from Ohio. And as you know, the banking experience spans from that earlier career of actually intake social worker first out of college into all the other things that he did talk about. And The interesting thing is I look through my career, all the organizations that I work for, every business and industry have a commonality, and that commonality is culture. Whether they want to have a culture or not, whether they feed it or not, there is a culture, right? Cultures form when we are intentional about feeding and caring for them, and they form even when we avoid them. Cultures just are, and they're everywhere. We have a culture at home, at work. Kids have it on the school bus, at church, at school, right? And there's even a culture here within the meeting today. And we're all responsible for this culture today. And just remember that when you're in a meeting or you're at home and you're at church or wherever, you are responsible for that culture as well. So your input, your communication, how you interact has a tremendous impact on that culture. I have always been really intrigued about the leaders that led me and how they represent themselves in the organizations that they work for while I was there. And, the question I always have is, are they towing the company line, or are they actually leading authentically while respecting the values of the organization? I'm constantly learning as a servant leader. I'm always growing. I am reminded that leadership is a lifelong journey, and I'm consistently skinning my knees. We love to use that phrase here at Verve, skinning your knees, getting back up and learning from my mistakes. How did I find myself here at Verve in the credit union space? Well, about 17 years ago, as I was a banker by trade, I was researching how credit unions operate. And what the industry mission for credit unions is people helping people. And that really strongly aligns with my faith and leadership approach. So I accepted a role 17 years ago as a CEO in Ohio, and it's been really an extremely rewarding time in my life since then. So Verve was founded about 85 years ago and is a member-owned, not-for-profit financial cooperative. That's a mouthful. We have about $1.5 billion in assets. So we still must make a profit, but that not-for-profit status comes in how we actually serve our entire communities, whether they bank with us or not. We believe that we should lift communities we offer services in or not. Whether the consumer buys the product or not, we feel that we should serve that person or that community. We proudly serve over 65,000 members. You might call them customers. We call them members because they're member owners. We have about 20 locations throughout Wisconsin, Illinois. We serve in Minnesota. We employ somewhere around 300 team members, to give you some insight into that. So if you look at the definition of Verve, it means vigor, spirit, enthusiasm. And it really stands for all the things that we are here. We're enthusiastic, we're energetic, we're strong, we're driven. And these characteristics are put to work every single day on behalf of those who bank with us. That's what we believe. We believe this name authentically represents who we are, how we serve the members and the community, and does reflect our pursuit to bring improved technologies to support our services in the communities in which we serve. Plus, at the same time, we do get to do a lot of great things here. We still have to make money, right? But in the end of the day, we also have a lot of fun, and what we embrace here at Verve very well is culture, okay? And putting our team members first. And this is what we're going to talk about today. So I believe that if we lift up our team members in all that they do, and we call them team members, some people might call them employees, if we give them the tools to grow both professionally and personally, if we hold them accountable for their actions, both good and bad, if we embrace critical conversations and model how to be confidently vulnerable, if we allow mistakes to turn into lessons, if we celebrate wins and translate those into new ways of doing better, if we honor the uniqueness in everyone's gifts and talents, and then somehow, and here's the key, we demonstrate how their unique talents and gifts translate into profound impact on the business outcomes, then I think we will win. You see, at Verve, strategic and intentional culture is woven throughout the entire fabric of our organization. We are proud to say that we lead with culture here. Others say it, we actually do it. The difference is, and why we have been so successful in our own right. So let's dive into some of this stuff. Our intentional workforce, our intentional focus, on culture, led us to earn a spot in this highly coveted Gallup exceptional workplace. Okay. And this was just last year as well. To give you an idea of what an accomplishment this is, so Verve is one of 39 top workplaces in the world to earn this spot. Only one of 4 credit unions on the list, and actually one of 3 Wisconsin organizations. So 3 Wisconsin organizations out of 39 in the world made this. If you're thinking about the other 2, who might the other 2? It's actually CISA 6, which is fantastic, and Quartz. And for those of you who are not familiar with Gallup, they're a global analytics and advice firm that's related to workplace culture, engagement, and leadership. And to be eligible for that Gallup Exceptional Workplace Award, organizations must do their Q12 employee survey. They have to have a high percent of participation rate. They have to have a minimum score of like a 4.4, which is very high already. But I think the key is that the organizations must have the ability to link engagement to business outcomes, which is really what you want to know as a business leader. But to be recognized on such a prominent global stage for the care and concern that we have for our team is really, truly the honor that we have. So how did we get there, right? Well, at Verve, we invest a significant time and resources into our team to learn and grow and be better every day. And it's harnessing human nature, really. All of us want to be better, and it takes continued effort to be intentional about culture. So about 11 years ago, when I first talked to the board, I was saying, listen, we should be spending an inordinate amount of money on culture. And this is actually before they even hired me. And I said, if you don't want to do that, I'm probably not your guy. And obviously it turns out that the direction for the board, that's where they wanted to go, among other areas. And though we've expanded as Verve in many directions since then, one of the key things is the focus on culture has not wavered since then. It is at the heart of what we do, and it truly is one of the reasons why we have that exceptional workplace, or the main reason. Culture at Verve is highly strategic. Like I said, it's board-supported initiative. And we partner with Gallup. Some of you probably have already heard of Gallup several years ago, and it gave us this objective measurement along the way of our culture journey to always to check in and check the pulse on that. But why dedicate so much intention and focus on culture, though? Well, according to Gallup, right, engaged team members are involved, committed, and they're enthusiastic about their workplace. Makes perfect sense. But really think about this a little bit. A company could have best-in-class technology and tools to do the job, top training, amazing work environment, all that stuff, and the benefits too. But if the team is not engaged, the investment goes absolutely nowhere. So for me, for Verve, culture is the most important thing we can ever invest in. So according to Gallup, teams scoring the top quartile on employee engagement saw several benefits compared to those in the bottom quartile, right? Higher customer loyalty and engagement, higher profitability, lower turnover. Although, as we know, the pandemic has kind of affected this turnover thing, and we're all really reeling from that as well. I'm sure we all probably still have our war stories, but companies in the top do understand that employee engagement is the force that drives real business outcomes. And our exceptional workplace is the result of putting people at the heart of decision-making, at the heart of communication, at the heart of hiring and development opportunities. But it also requires intentional effort for us and is achieved through servant leadership cultural tools that we use, consistent and purposeful communication, leadership development, active leadership development, monthly one-on-one vigorous coaching, and a robust well-being program that we do have. And that's just to name a few. We have so many things going on that support our culture and the drive that we have to get that discretionary effort out of our team at Verve and still have them walk home being happy and loving their job. There's so much of that stuff. We don't have nearly enough time to go over that. So I'm kind of giving you that broad brush stroke right now so that you can kind of get a flavor for it. And these variety of programs empower the Verve team member to excel, and then they bring their best selves. And you'll hear about that. They're unique, their best self, their skills, their abilities, their gifts and talents to everything that they do. And then we believe that our members do feel the difference. And at the end, I'll talk to you about that. So how do we start building culture at Verve? We started obviously with the team first. That's the nucleus of it. So think about yourself for a minute, right? What drives you to slug it out each day? What fills your bucket? What moves you at times to go above and beyond? That discretionary effort, right? What is it for you that does that? When you really dig into it, it boils down to being your genuine self and using your strengths to contribute and make change. Ultimately, when you can apply your best self, it typically results in a higher engagement for you and you producing better results. So, do you know what your strengths are? According to Gallup, people who know their strengths are 6 times more likely to be engaged at work. So mine are there on the bottom left: activator, achiever, competition, ideation, strategic. And we don't have time to get into those, but I'm sure a lot of you do have your strengths. And I would love for you after this or at some point in time to go back and revisit those and really see how they do complement what you're doing and what your plans are for the future. Our new team members, within the first days of being hired, take that Clifton Strengths Assessment. It's over 140 questions, and it generates an individualized report at the end, kind of like an insight guide that lists top 5 strengths out of a list of 34. So they rank your top 5 out of all 34. You can get an expanded one that gives you all 34. Then before our new team members even start their training on the job, we carve out time for them to read through that insight guide. And I will tell you it's amazing how eye-opening it is, that it's validating for the team member. It's amazing how accurate that these insight guides really are at the personal level. They go through their insight guide strength by strength and receive an in-depth coaching from what we have on site at Verve as a certified strengths coach. And bringing on that coach was also a strategic decision so that our teams could better understand how to utilize their strengths and mitigate their weaknesses. But during that time also, Verve also transitioned to a more physical-based wellness program, to expansion into what we're calling now as a well-being initiative, because it's not just about the physical health that we have. And really with the well-being, it's a very holistic approach, understanding the needs of our team and treating them as unique, holistic individuals. So we touched a little bit on strengths and the importance of the culture and strategy, and that might not be new to you. And it's really hardly unique, really, to Verve. A lot of organizations do that. But let's chat about what truly makes Verve unique and clearly aligns a team member's daily contribution to the outcomes of the organization, because which in turn, those outcomes create highly engaged teams, produces extraordinary discretionary effort, and results in financial and business success to the organization, hopefully. So we're going to examine actually the key pieces of our intentional culture. Hopefully you'll glean something from that. And we'll start at that macro level and drill down from there. And what you're seeing here is those 4 pieces on the screen now. So on the left, you're going to see what we call the anatomy of a servant leader. And this is all sort of homegrown, designed internally from all the experiences that we've had over the years. The anatomy of a servant leader is the overarching element that permeates all that we do at Verve. It's robust. It helps us guide our team in the way of leadership, serving self and serving others, okay? That's sort of the glue that holds everything together. That's really where our servant-led culture lives, okay? Then we move down into, then we work to what we call the aspirational level, and that's our why, right? Some companies have a vision, right? Or a mission, a vision. We have a why. You probably know Simon Sinek and understand maybe what that why is, or what whys are about. But our why is the reason why we wake up every single morning and we slug it out in lockstep with one another. It makes our collective work as team members very meaningful. And then we're going to go down one level from that aspirational level down to what we'll call an organizational level. And those are our patch values. Some organizations say they're the values of our organization. We call them patch values. And these are the values that we as an organization hold in very high esteem at Verve. These are the non-negotiable ones that are always, always front of mind. And then we drill down, most importantly, to the individual level and what we call our patch value declaration. And these are amazing. I get really excited. If I haven't been excited yet, I get really excited about this stuff here now when we get down to this level. But these are the unique expressions of what we value as an individual and then what our teams can count on us for. And really here, we're trying to inspire the individual inspire the team member at an individual level that creates momentum from all team members to then drive to the patch values in our why, right? To create momentum at the company level, at the aspirational level, okay? So being a servant-led organization really means that we are all committed to better serving the needs of others. We expect everyone to be a leader. That doesn't mean that they get up and give a speech, okay? That's not what leaders do, we all know that. It simply means that everybody has the expectation, not the encouragement. And I'm gonna pause there. I want you to hear this again. At Verve, we expect our leaders, we don't encourage them, we expect our leaders to empower the people around them and encourage their personal and their team members' development and growth. And there's a whole host of things around and tools that we use to actually do that, okay? So I tell every team member 3 things to think about on their first day or the day that they do their orientation. I first say, you are given the challenge and the privilege. Those words are very specific. They are given the challenge and the privilege to lead with your head, your heart, and your hands. I want you to think how important and impactful really true leadership can be. It can easily lift somebody up and it can tear somebody down. And as we know, perception is reality, right? And with leadership, perception and reality are often critically intertwined, okay? The second thing I say to people is, listen, people will judge you by your impact. They will not judge you by your intent, right? Impact and intent. So have you ever had a recent conversation with somebody that started with, I'm really sorry for whatever you're sorry for, but what I really meant was, and then, you know, that, right? When you say, I'm really sorry for, that's the impact, right? That's the impact. But then when you say, what I really meant was, right? That was the intent. In that case, your impact and intent was not aligned. And as leaders, it's so important to try to align both intent and impact. And I will tell you, as you already probably know, it is really challenging to do that day in and day out, especially when stakes are high, right? Especially when it's personal. Sometimes we may challenge that even more at home than at work. Actually, I do better at work than I do at home because stakes are always higher sometimes at home, right? With the ones that you love. So the last thing I always say too is this. I want them to think about this because of Verve and how we really want people to be leaders. Managers control resources, but leaders multiply energy. And as leaders, we do need to manage accountability and resources, right? Managing things, our daily inbox and everything else. But I believe that we are called to enrich the lives of individuals, build better organizations, and ultimately create a more caring workplace and community. So let's dive into that one that permeates everything, the anatomy of a servant leader, okay? This was developed to provide guideposts for our team to understand how a servant leader may communicate, right, and behave. So we ask them to understand that importance of the 7 components, right? We talk about thinking positively, working collaboratively, unlocking the potential, which is kind of like saying being idea-driven and solution-oriented, thinking critically, showing pride in our thought, word, and deed, communicate with intent, and leading with that servant's heart. And each component of the anatomy has example behaviors, you'll see that on the right, that model how a servant leader may act, communicate, or just be. But I say example behaviors because they're not required actions, but a model for how they can best use their strengths to model more servant-like behavior. Servant leadership allows us to be authentic and confidently vulnerable. I used that phrase before, so that when we have those tough conversations, we know it's coming from a place of service, of care, and concern. Servant leaders are not hesitant to be critical, okay? It's not like we avoid conflict. Servant leaders are not hesitant to be critical when needed, but will do it while preserving the dignity of others whenever they possibly can. And again, we skin our knees and fail all the time, but we learn from our mistakes. Servant leaders are not afraid what we call to say, call the baby ugly, okay? When you come up with an idea at work, we pick it apart. You realize we are refining that idea, the system or the process, and we're not diminishing your worth as a person because it was your original idea. We're on the same team, right? Servant-led means we invest in every person in our organization, and to do so effectively, I think we've revolutionized our coaching platform, and we're always in a process of refining everything. We have a great one-on-one monthly coaching platform. And also one of the keys is the bench strength in our leadership to make those conversations meaningful is so critical. And a lot of that comes from that anatomy, right? And that communication piece. In servant leadership, we use the phrase best and highest use. It's specific to the individual. So my best and highest use might not be somebody else's and vice versa. Understanding an individual's strength at the molecular level is really important, because when you put them in a role that they excel at, and then you give them the runway, a big runway, and then you let them skin their knees a bit, and then they learn from their mistakes, and then they live out those, patch values and patch value declarations and all the other things, and the why that they're chasing. The sky is absolutely the limit. We're unlocking that potential, right? And if you ask a team member, this is really interesting. If you ever ask a team member at Verve, well, what do you do here at Verve? Oftentimes you'll actually hear them say, I get to be, and then they say a consumer lender, let's say. Yes, they've earned their role at Verve, but they are so humbled and honored to be in a role that they have earned that they actually get to serve in that capacity. They get to serve in that capacity. And this is shared language. And this is things that, our team just picks up because we are all servant leaders. And I am so proud of all of our team and their journeys and what they're doing within servant leadership. At Verve, we are a collection of leaders, and in our own capacity, we make things happen and we move our teams forward. And our anatomy framework provides the guideposts for our team to do the good work that they actually do. And here's the key. It provides the framework for what they do outside of their actual job description, okay? So we move from that sort of thing that permeates everything into that aspirational piece, our why, right? Most organizations have a mission, a vision, a values, right? Or values. We don't have mission and visions, right? We have values, but we don't have mission vision. However, our why is like a company's vision, right? And our why is we challenge the status quo to better serve the needs of others so that we can all live fuller, richer, and more impactful lives. And each and every word of that is critical and chosen properly. And when we have our onboarding, we'll talk about this for 20 or 30 minutes, and we just don't have time for that. But we really break it out. Our why, though, is the galvanizing element. It's the clarion call that all Verve team members rally around. It's the reason why we wake up every morning, like I said before, in lockstep and slug it out for our team, our members, and our community. It provides clarity, meaning, and direction. And it's the filter with which all decisions can be made so that our organizations can be brought to life. Organization's cause, can be brought to life. As well, it makes our work, our collective work, meaningful. And the why captures our organization's unique contribution and impact. So our why is not about, as you read it, it's not about being the premier financial institution or delivering the highest value to shareholders, right? And you see that a lot with companies. It has nothing to do with financial resorts or the products that we sell. Zero. But why is that? Well, first, let's think back to the job that you had, and when you were interviewing with that company. So I want you to think about that a little bit. Think about a job that you had, and maybe if you can remember an interview. When you were in that interview, did you know what their mission statement was prior to walking in? Did you memorize it? Did it resonate with your core if you did memorize it and you actually even did the research? Let's say you didn't even do the research. You had no clue what the actual mission statement was, okay? But you just wanted the job. Did the interviewer tell you what the mission statement was and then ask you, will you wholeheartedly believe in it? Will you give every ounce of effort that you had to achieve that mission? Because that's what an organization wants, right? Because it's a mission statement. Probably not though, right? The reality is no, not everybody would, because most likely those mission statements are too narrow or they're too impersonal. You're not going to align with it. Right? And it lacks maybe inspiration to galvanize the employees collectively to charge ahead together as one. So do you think every team member wakes up every morning yearning to deliver the highest value to its member owners? No, they don't, because they can't connect their actions on a daily basis to that, but they can connect their actions to challenging the status quo, using their individuality to serve people so that those people that they serve can lead fuller, richer, and more impactful lives. How you connect the dots during the day with all the tools that you give them can get to that. But it's not about selling the product and service. It's about how you go about serving others when you sell them the product and service. We know that everybody walks in our retail branches. Our calls, our 800 number, have different definitions of what we believe fuller, richer, and more impactful lives actually are, right? Makes sense. And not only that, if you had a definition of what your fuller, richer, and more impactful life is today, think about it 5 years ago, or before you had your first child, or before your parent passed away, or when you were in high school. Definitions are probably different. It's always changing from our perception because of the experiences that we have had along the way. We don't define for our team what fuller, richer, and more impactful means for them. But based on the encounter with each team member that we have, our team members are trained and empowered to use our tools like the anatomy and all the other ones that we don't have a lot of time to talk about. And we ask them to use their unique gifts and talents to recognize the differences and can deliver a highly tailored, unique interaction with our member. And after all, a fuller, richer, and more impactful experience for a person who just lost their spouse to an illness and maybe needs to get into a safety deposit box, okay, is vastly different than a new college graduate purchasing their first car. Vastly different, right? So we have to be able to meet them where they're at in that time. And we try to tie that to those aspirational views, not just serve the member or make the customer happy, okay? Everything has a purpose. Everything is by design at Verve. We know that if a person is predisposed to serve others, and we do that in interviewing, they are more likely to be strongly aligned with our why and our values and be able to live and believe in a patch value declaration that they've created. And they will have a much greater opportunity for success here at Verve. So we're going to drill down now to that organizational value and the patch values. And this is starting to get a little fun for me. So let's look at how we actually employ our corporate values in our journey to create and sustain that exceptional servant-led culture. So I call them patch values. We call them patch values, but for time's sake, you'll have to just accept the name, excuse me, at face value, because at Verve, there's always a story behind everything, and we just don't have enough time to cover it. So we're just going to do that, but that's oftentimes one of the things that we go into. But just like our why, the patch values are a framework for us, a way to talk about what we value as a team, and we define the broad belief. We define the broad belief in the values, but then we empower our team to live them out in their own unique ways. So you see those four, right? So agility, we define it as our actions are nimble, swift, and deliberate, giving us the ability to adapt quick to opportunities. Just as an example, freedom, we define freedom as we empower our team to grow as individuals by being open-minded and gaining new knowledge, thinking differently, and challenging the status quo, okay? And passion, we empower each team member to celebrate and use their own unique talents and gifts and all that they do, both at home and at Verve, okay? But many organizations identify corporate values. That's not unique. However, they may define them too narrowly or fail to clearly articulate how the value can be modeled by the team member. And that's the key, how that value actually can be modeled on a day in and day out situation by the team member. So for example, you can pull up most large companies right now and you'll find corporate sustainability really is one of their values. And it's great it's a great value to have, of course. But if you can't tie back corporate sustainability to how a part-time employee can profoundly impact the organization by living that value, they've completely missed the mark. It's just lip service, okay? But for also many that do miss that mark, I really do think that there are great examples also. So very often you will see well-known, especially servant-led organizations like Starbucks, who have brilliantly connected the dots, which energize and empower the team member to thrive in that culture. And a way to do that is when you go on their website and you really look at what their values are, think about how you're being interacted with in the retail stores. And that's how you know they've really connected the dots. But providing guideposts and definitions about corporate values is not enough. We challenge our team members to examine each value and identify how it actually aligns with their individual talents. Then we ask them to communicate to others how they will live out that value. Okay, so we go one step further with this. So how about an exercise? Let's do a really quick exercise. And I do believe that I have to pull up, I don't know if I can find it, the chat. There we go. Okay. So we're going to do an exercise here. So most organizations, I think, even if they don't say it in their values, desire to be agile. It just happens to be one of ours. Even if they do not specifically name it as a core value, I think they want to be agile. I also think we can posit that many successful organizations are agile, right? Is it by design or by chance? We're not really sure, but let's take agility in this case. So I want you to think about what agility actually means to you, okay? That's the first thing. I want you to think about what agility means to you. Now let's put some descriptions out there in the chat, okay? Is it a word? Is it a phrase? Is it, you know, is it a picture of something? Is it an animal? Whatever, but please start throwing out there what you think, your definition because of your strengths and everything, what your definition of agility is. And I have the chat open, but I will tell you, I'm not seeing anything. So I don't know if I actually have it open the right way. Okay, I don't see anything coming through. All right. Sorry, everybody. I can't see anything coming through on the chat here. So I will just keep going then. All right. So when I think about agility, I think about like a college running back running through the line, being able to, you know, this guy is fast, he's big, he's strong, but he's also, he can stop on a dime and move and pivot and go another way, right? Oh, here we go. Thanks, Al. Being able to effectively react to a variety of changes. Perfect. If there's anybody else in there, please, you know, throw them through. I'd love that. I'd love to have that. But what I think you will see is this: every single person that puts a definition of agility or what that means to them is really by definition, it is agile, right? There is no one way to be agile. But the key is this: the way I want to be agile and the way that I can be the best, show the best agility because of my strengths or my go-to is, I'll use Al, is different than his because we are two very different people, right? So if an organization is defining too narrowly what agility is in one way, would that organization be agile? Yeah, I think it would be agile, absolutely. However, what if everybody in the organization was agile in their own unique way? How much more agility would there be? There would be a ton of people, right? So when I worked for a bank that was the second largest bank in the country at the time, agility for us was, and this is how I got this idea from, because the president would say, you know, you need to be in at 7 a.m. You need to leave no later than 5. We're going to do bed checks and make sure you're in the door. We're going to have you, sit at least on 2 boards. You have to, give to these nonprofits based off of your title. You have to do all these other things, and these are the requirements. And by definition, I was very agile. I was doing a lot of different things, but everybody was doing the same things, right? So we try to, at Verve, allow people to be agile in their own unique way, again, outside of their job description, right? But that also enhances their job description and adds to the value of the organization and the culture. So instead of telling our team how to be agile, we believe that Verve will be more agile when all the team members are agile in their own unique way. Then they own it, and they're more accountable to the value in this way, okay? So let's move down to that individual level, the patch value declaration, okay? After our team member has learned about their strengths, why their patch, our why and the patch values, they actually go on to create their patch value declaration. And really, this is a differentiator for Verve. It does not lack dimension. If you remember, like a 30-second elevator speech, just kind of rattling off, you know, the things that are really important about a person. In fact, it's actually 1/3 of the length and packs 3 times the punch, okay? The declaration, by definition, is a unique expression of what we value most as individuals and what our team can count on us for. I'll say it again, it's a unique expression of what we value as individuals, but also then what our team can count on us for. It's a really bold statement that takes everyone from a framework to a strong commitment. It's how each person lives out the patch values daily. And it says to others, this is what I value and what I feel that I do best and what you can count on me for when I'm on your team, okay? It's a source at Verve, it's a source of immense pride, and it's a tremendous way to help to understand the depth of each team member. And it provides a runway for each team member to showcase and utilize their gifts, but bigger than their actual job description, right? It's bigger than their actual job description. It reveals their authentic self. It is who they are inside and outside the workplace. We talked about confident vulnerability and consistency. We don't want people to put on one hat and take off the other, okay? So why is the patch value declaration really so impactful? We just talked about it, authenticity, right? At Verve, there is no Verve Kevin and home Kevin. There's just Kevin, okay? I know I'm gonna do my best when I am my most authentic self, playing on my strengths that really come naturally. And I think you would agree with that too. Have you ever thought about, though, how really diverse and unique your team members or your family really is? I mean, really think about it. Each single moment of our lives up to this very moment right now, every micro moment of our lives has shaped us, maybe really strongly, or just a little bit where you don't even notice it, right? But it shaped us to who we are today. And because of that reason, that's how diverse we really are. So think about that, right? Think about I'll go just really quickly through this. Think about how really diverse we are, right? Some of us were born in a certain, a certain era, right? A certain generation. Others weren't, right? So when and where we were born. Who were our parents? Did we have 1 or 2 parents, right? Did we have no parents, right? Did our parents, was it a dysfunctional family? Was it a loving family? There's all these things about family dynamics. How many siblings did we have? And were we close or were we not? Did we lose a sibling? Were you the black sheep or not, right? Where did you go to school? Did you even go? Were you comfortable financially, or did your family have to fight and claw for everything? There are so many things, right, that happen. Did you lose a dog? Did you lose a spouse? Every single thing in our world changes us indelibly. I am not the same person today than I was, before I got married, clearly, right? I was not the same person the day after my father died. I changed, right? And all those things bring Kevin to the front, right? And at Verve, we want to celebrate that. We want to bring that into the mix. There is an enormous strength in our uniqueness and in our identity. And at Verve, like I said, we want it all, not just leading with your head, heart, and hands, but also we want the whole person with all the experiences, all the perspectives, all the insight. And you say, well, why would you want that? Because after all, that's how we will best understand our members and customers, because obviously they're human too. What does a patch value declaration look like? So there is really a little bit of a structure to it, right? First, it must be 10 seconds or less. I said, remember, it was 1/3 of the time. So it's 10 seconds or less. It always starts off with a value word, okay, what you value most. And then it goes on to telling people why you value it, and then how you can see that coming to life, what you can count on them for. So the structure is I value, fill in the blank, and then I pride myself in, and then you fill in that blank. And it's structured that way so those are keys so people can listen in, because every single team member has one. And it's done wonders over the years that we've used this, okay? So I will share with you mine. So mine is I value agility. I pride myself in thinking strategically while making tough decisions in a swift, fair, and impactful way. That's the structure of it, right? And I am truly agile in both my personal and professional life. Sometimes that strength is also a weakness, right? When I want to make decisions very quickly, or I don't listen as much as I should, right? But that's what I feel that I do best. I feel that I own that, that not only do I own that, but I owe that to the organization and my family, because that's really where my skill set is and my natural talents. Okay. But I do feel that it is my responsibility to be fair and swift, especially while weighing decisions, and especially when they have weight and importance, right? When there's a lot of risk when there's a lot at risk. So you do know a little bit about me because of that, but the fun really comes in when someone who just heard that Patch Value Declaration asks you why. And we're not going to do it now, but I will tell you, we always do this. So when somebody gives a patch value, we say why one time, and then they explain. Then we say why again, and then they explain. Then we say why a third time. And I will tell you, the depth at which you know somebody after asking 3 whys is astounding, astounding. And the conversation probably lasts 3 minutes. That assumes also that the person will be confidently vulnerable to share that as well. So let's go on. I'm going to skip a little round because I know we're running a little bit out of time here. So, here we go. So at the end of the day, I'll say this: when we're in an environment in which we are our genuine selves, our talents are allowed to shine, and we serve the needs of others, it does result in growth, personal growth, of course, but the ripple effect of everything working together also leads to an exceptional workplace. So in the past 10 years, Verve has grown over $1.3 billion in assets, primarily through mergers and acquisitions, 5 in the last 10 years. But our most recent acquisition brought us into that Chicago market, which we're really proud of. But we actually did that during a pandemic and through a total technology transformation, which is basically ripping out everything and reinstalling something new because we had to upgrade our systems. We navigated that total tech transformation, which was a huge undertaking. We're talking like 60 systems and huge amounts of change in our members and our team. But we dug in and the team got really, really involved. And this was a 2-year methodical process to bring it all to life. But by the way, most of the work that went behind this was during that height of the pandemic. And we all have sort of our war stories about the pandemic and just what happened. And just after we bought that bank and expanded in Chicago, but we really leveraged the strengths and insights of our team to make it happen. And we believe this exceptional workplace and the culture got us through all of that. So much that while driving all of this progress, we maintained an unbelievable environment for our team. That doesn't mean that our team wasn't, risking burnout, and they weren't concerned, and they weren't saying, hey, we need to slow down a bit, or is it ever going to stop? That's not the case. It was happening, but we were able to continually keep them engaged, right? And these are some of the areas in 2021, the awards for which we've been locally and nationally recognized because of that. And we are very proud of this, but I say we got this during 2021 with all this stuff happening. And it really is because of that exceptional workplace, because of that culture that brought us through. So Gallup Awards with that Exceptional Workplace Award we talked about. We were awarded Best and Brightest Companies nationally, Best Credit Union to Work For. We are a Platinum Well Workplace through the Wellness Council of America. We've won Business and Marketing Awards through the Diamond Awards of CUNA Council. And one that we're really, 3 of them actually, that we're really proud of is the top 101 best and brightest companies to work for. We won it in the Chicago market, the Milwaukee region, and actually in the nation as well. And again, these are testaments to that, okay? Testaments to that. So how is Verve improving the lives of others, right? So here's sort of the way. Earlier I mentioned Gallup's Employee Engagement Survey, and this survey is based on those 12 questions that measure what employees want and need to thrive in their workplace. So Gallup studies nearly 3 million workers and over 100,000 teams. So they know a thing or two about this stuff, about this engagement. And we've been doing this survey since 2016. And every year we learn how many more or how many engaged team members exist at Verve versus a disengaged member or team member at Verve. And our very first engagement, and you'll see that on the bottom, is in 2016 was 10 to 1, meaning we had 10 engaged team members for every one actively disengaged team member. And it goes along the line, right? So through 17 through 21, we went up to 20 to 1 and 36 to 1. And that's where, and then we went down to 33 to 1. And that's where Gallup kind of told us, you don't really need to do it anymore because everything else is just diminishing returns. And we just kept moving with our culture and strategy. It went up to 37 to 1, and now we're sitting at 40 to 1. Okay. And I'm hoping the chat does work now. But the best way to describe the ratios, okay, is to think in terms of a rowboat. Okay. So in 2021, for every 40 team members at Verve rowing in the right direction, we had one rowing in the opposite. Okay. So if Verve is 40 to 1, the national average, what do you think the national average is? And maybe the Wisconsin average. They're very close. I'll give you that. If the chat is working, see what you think the ratio is for the national average and the Wisconsin average. I hear 20 to 1, 30 to 1, 7 to 1, 12 to 1. Yep, awesome. 25 to 1. 10 to 1. Wonderful. We'll keep going with that. Keep putting them in there. It's great. I'm going to say, everybody, you are the eternal optimist. The national average is 2 to 1. And sadly enough, it went down to 1.9 to 1 in 2022. Okay. And the state average is unfortunately 1.7 to 1. 1.7 to 1 on average for the organizations that they measure. Right. So they're not, they don't have momentum at all. A 4 to 1 ratio is the ratio needed to make forward progress, according to Gallup. Verve having 40 to 1 through that pandemic, buying the bank and all that stuff through the technology upgrade is a testimony, obviously, to the team that we have at Verve and the process that we have in place. So remember, though, the ripple effect that I mentioned earlier, our members feel the difference too. And our overall Google review rating for 2022 is 4 out of 5. Our Facebook sentiment, 87.5% positive. Our mobile app, 4.7 out of 5. Our average net promoter score, 76, which through the technology uplift is average for our peers. It's not above average, but we really are proud of that through all the disruption that we had. And it truly is humbling to see that positive impact of our internal efforts on focusing on those that we serve. And at Verve, we serve a world-class, I believe, a world-class engaged team. And I know some of you are watching right now, so I really appreciate that. We continue to grow financially and geographically. Though we are growing and empowered with best-in-class tools, I say this, we strive to be big and act small, to be big and act small. We've been saying that since 2012, be big, act small. We recognize our team and organization and have a wide range of needs, but it does begin with servant leadership and our span of care. We want to equip our servant leaders with the tools they need to support others. What we really are aiming for is putting everybody in a position where they can be successful, giving them the time and the resources to do their jobs well. So that is actually what has fueled our success here at Verve. It's an engaged team, it's empowered individuals, and that's how we have created the exceptional workplace. Thank you.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much. I'm Amy. If everybody can hear me, I am the marketing and event person here at Oshkosh Area United Way. Thank you for your patience through the blip with the chat. I appreciate your patience with that. And Kevin, thank you again so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're very, very busy right now, and appreciate you taking this time. I do have a few questions that I'd like to share with you. And if anybody has any additional questions, please use the Q&A part, and I will share those with Kevin as well. So Kevin, skinning my knees, which I think is great, a great description. Can you give an example of when you skinned your knee and what you learned from the situation?
Yeah, the team knows this one too. When I was back, this is a long time ago. This was back when I was just married and didn't have children yet. And I will tell you that I was put on It was a very large bank, and I was put on a program in a project that was before calculating the overnight interchange for the bank in the foreign markets. And I made a mistake, and I made a very big mistake, and it was a mistake every single day. And it was.
You still there, Kevin? We may have lost you. I'm not sure. Well, I apologize, guys. We may have lost Kevin. Was hoping to see if that would work itself out, but if not, so I will just say, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to email me at amy@oshkoshareaunitedway.org, and I can certainly pass the questions on to Kevin. He might be coming back in. Hold on. Oh, there he is.
I'm back. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Continue to say what you're saying.
I don't know where I got cut off, but I just thought it was a great way to really learn about how somebody can really skin their knees, or I would say they had a lot of scabs on them on that one. And he was very gracious about it and said, you know, you're going to have to learn from this and tell us what you learned. We've invested too much. So we have a lot of grace at Verve to allow that to happen. We want that to happen because people then will work hard and they're not afraid of making mistakes. It's different than failing forward or failing fast and all that. It's different.
Okay. So you talked about finding your why. Is there a brief way to describe the process of finding your why? If you want to sit down and maybe rethink your why, is there a quick process or a brief process you could walk through?
Yeah, there is, and I would say it's not very quick, but I will tell you a quick way to do it. A quick way to do it is actually to work through like Simon Sinek and his book and things like that, because it's inside out, not outside in. And really, before you do that, I really want you to think about how your culture is now, whether you want your culture to be that way, and define what you want your culture to establish. And then from there, you work that way. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
But yeah, making the why or developing a mission statement, it's really, really tough.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's hard work. But I would say that was the way for start with culture, defining that first, because you'll never achieve the mission, vision, values, or the why if your culture and your actions are not aligned with that.
Perfect. Thank you. If someone's organization doesn't have a defined culture, where should they start?
Yeah, so that's a good one. I would say this first. They don't have a defined culture, but they do have a culture. So defining it and getting a consensus from what it really is, the good, the bad, the ugly, is really, really the key from everywhere in the organization. And most importantly, probably not just from management or executive management. It's probably, you're going to know the nuts and bolts from everybody who doesn't have that seat at the table, so to speak. But then I say, look at your mission and values, right? Does that currently align with that culture that you have? Okay. And then identify what you want that new culture to be like. Again, kind of like, the beginning of the last question. What do you want it to do? What drive do you want it to accomplish? And what will be the foundation or the bedrock of that culture? So for us, the foundation and bedrock is servant leadership. Our culture is not servant leadership. Our culture is our culture is not servant leadership. Servant leadership is the bedrock of our culture. Okay, if that makes sense, it's bigger than that. Okay. And then putting together goals and what needs to be done to achieve those things is really key. Then accumulating the tools that you're going to achieve. And then here's the key. Then you got to communicate it to the leadership, get all their buy-in. Then you communicate it to the entire team, so everybody knows they have all the tools. And then the hardest part is you actually have to execute. And execute is tough, right? It's years and years.
I was just going to ask, I was just going to ask, is that something that happens overnight, or is that something that
we struggled? It felt like we moved backwards the first year or so. And then we started seeing momentum at about year 2. At year 4 or 5, it felt like we were on autopilot. And then we grew so much, we had to, change some of the internal tools to support our growth. So it's ever evolving. And I really feel that, again, you really got to keep your thumb on the pulse of that.
Okay. And I have one last question. So you mentioned continuous focus on culture at Verve. What do you feel is the biggest challenge keeping the focus in this place,
Communication.
Mhm.
It is really cute. It's really, communication is so important. Culture is it's very intangible. It's a force that can motivate and sustain an organization in good times and bad times, right? But
Oh, we may have lost him again. Okay, guys, I think we may have lost Kevin one last time. So I will say thank you again for everybody who joined us today. And again, if you have any questions you'd like to pass on to Kevin, feel free to email me at amy@oshkoshunitedway.org, and I'm more than happy to pass that on. And then this is recorded, so I will be sharing the link with everybody tomorrow. So thank you again. And thank you, Kevin, if you can hear me. We appreciate your time and expertise today. So everybody have a fantastic day. Thanks.